Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. I'm Dax Holt. Adam Glyn is out today, but have no fear. I've got an incredible guest coming on today, not to fill his shoes, but to be here. We've got Dr. John Layke, who is one of the top cosmetic surgeons in Beverly Hills. You've seen him on Bravo. You've seen him on Watch What Happens Live. He was a bartender with Andy Cohen. You've seen him kind of all over the place, and you've probably seen his work all over Hollywood. You just didn't know it. I'm going to talk to him about some of the trending topics that I want to know. I want to know the answer for, like, how much does it cost to get some of these age-defying treatments done? I want to know what part of Kim Kardashian's body is the most requested body part to have mimicked on other people. I want to know what is the craziest request that a celeb has ever asked him to do. What else? I want to get into maybe what procedures are celebrities doing at home to avoid being seen at a doctor's office, and honestly, how are the paparazzi not seeing them? What kind of lengths are they going through to hide their patients from being seen in public? And I also want to know what his reaction to Kris Jenner's new face. I gotta know, what does he think of it? Does he approve? What does he think was done? We're going to get into all of that. So, Adam's out today. He is out filming as we speak right now. He'll probably tell us all about his escapades on the weekend or the Friday episode. Had a good weekend. I hope you guys did as well. Like I was saying about Dr. John Layke, he just a really, really talented man. He's, like I said, one of the most in-demand surgeons in Beverly Hills. He not only has a Beverly Hills clinic, he also has a place down in Cabo, San Lucas, which apparently has become now one of the big hot spots for athletes and actors and people to go down and get procedures done. I'm going to get into that, exactly what they're getting done in Mexico, because why did he have to build a facility in Mexico? Is it for privacy reasons? Is it for medical practice reasons? I need to know a little bit more about that. And then, he's the guy that really knows about trends, the secrets, the behind the scenes stories that, most celebrities will never admit to. And I also want to know, has it become more common to admit the surgeries that you're doing? In the past, no one could talk about it. Now it seems like people are a little more free, they're open, they're honest. And is that helping business now? Or, what does that look like? How has that changed Hollywood? So we're going to get into all of that with him. I don't have a review for you right now. I'm sorry. We're running super low in reviews. So if you would like to hear your review read on the air, this would be the time, because I need some new ones. We're running dangerously low, so I didn't grab one for today. But please feel free, go to Apple Podcasts, scroll down to the bottom of our show page, leave a review, 5 stars. I will read it on the air. I always do. So we will get into that. And so, yes, let's get Dr. John Layke on here. Like I said, he is one of the most in-demand plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills. He knows all about plastic surgery. He specializes in nose jobs, facial reconstruction, aesthetics, all that kind of stuff. And I'm about to ask him every medical question I got. Doctor, welcome to the podcast. Doctor, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Very excited to talk to you today. I feel like I've got so many questions. Adam and I are constantly talking about just how good celebrities look and how good they're looking for a long period of time, where I'm asking myself, how is it that Tom Cruise looks younger than me, even though he's been an adult and famous my entire life? It actually makes no sense. So I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah, thanks, Dax, for having me. Look, it's interesting. I think 2 things. One is having access to, plastic surgery and aesthetic surgery. The second is having the funds in order to do it on a continuous basis, right? I mean, some of these treatments that we have, when you talk about skin tightening and skin refreshing and lasers and all kinds of things, these are procedures that people do once a year, if they're lucky, right? But let's say you had one of these machines in your home. let's say you had a certain radio frequency machine that tightened your skin on a continual basis. I mean, look, I think this is why many of the Kardashians look great. This is why many of, a lot of the celebs that we continuously see on TV that don't seem to age. I love that J-Lo is saying, all right, I've just used olive oil, but there's a little more to it behind the curtain.
So you think it's not just olive oil? Is that what you're saying, Doctor?
I can't say for certain, but I do think, look, there's something about a transparency, and this is where whatever you think of them, some of the Kardashians, I mean, they tell you, they say, look, I'm going to my surgeon, I'm doing this, I'm taking care of my skin, this is personal care. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, just because the general public sees these individuals and they ask the same questions you do. They say, what is happening here? Why are they aging in reverse or in standstill? And I think that, sometimes it's nice to know that everyone is human and there's a reason for it.
Do you feel, though, that it's started to shift where in the past, celebrities never talked about surgery? It was never a thing. You kept it under wraps because you didn't want anyone to know. I feel like, and maybe I may be wrong, but that celebrities are now inviting the public in to say, this is what I'm doing, because maybe the stigma has changed a little bit. Or is it that people are getting paid to talk about it more? What do you think is the story here?
I mean, excellent question. I think the answer is both, right? I mean, I think that there's more awareness. We see plastic surgeons as educating people. I mean, with the advent of Instagram and TikTok and all these different things, it started off on a bumpy road with, the ORs dancing while patients were asleep on a table. But now I think it's more of an educational thing. And so they do have influencers come in and celebs and things like that. And they say, it's kind of giving props to a particular procedure or technique or something like that. And then the other thing is that in the past, you're right, it was this stigma of having plastic surgery. No one actually wanted to say out loud, oh my goodness, I'm actually aging. You saw someone on screen, you expected them to stay that way forever, and it's just not humanly possible. And so people were getting things done behind the scenes, and it just, they were much more hush-hush about it.
So we obviously know that the Kardashians are massive trendsetters with fashion, with beauty, with everything. Do they still influence surgery, or is there other people that influence surgery more than Kardashians? Is it TikTokers? Is it anyone out there? Like, who do you find the biggest influencers of surgery are these days?
It's interesting to me. Sometimes they don't. It's not like you've heard of them before. It's not like they've been on screen or you've watched them in a series. They are people who legitimately start looking into the space, and let's say they're attractive, and they go with it. They talk about different procedures. They meet with different surgeons. They meet with estheticians. And then they debunk certain myths, and people are slowly starting to jump on board with that, right? I think, like I was alluding to earlier, when Instagram and TikTok started, and it was this big craze where you were trying to grab someone's attention from a surgical standpoint. It was the craziest procedure that you've ever seen, or it was that the entire operating room staff was dancing to a particular song. I think the trend has switched, at least for the ethical surgeons. It's more of taking common questions that the public may have and being transparent, saying this is what to expect. These are potential complications. This is what you could look like, and this is what can happen. And people are slowly saying, all right, well, now the more educated someone gets, the more accepted something, a topic may be, in my opinion.
And one other thing that you alluded to a minute ago was people can now afford to have skin tightening machines in their house. So someone, whatever, like the Kardashians or J-Lo or whoever that could potentially be able to afford one of these, how much does a machine like that cost that you can then do at home by yourself?
Right. Look, when we look at some of these high level machines, I mean, they can be in the upwards of $200,000.
Oh,
And so when you come to an office and you're paying a few $1,000s for the procedure, that's why. I mean, the base on these things alone is 150,000. Then you start adding hand pieces for hair removal and red spot removal and brown spot removal and skin tightening and all kinds of different things. It adds up. Soon you've got a $350,000 machine that you're trying to utilize. And so for the everyday individual, that's just not conceivable, right?
but wait, can someone operate one of those by themselves, or are they buying the machine and then having a tech come and do the procedure just at home so they're not worried?
Yeah, I think they would have a practitioner come, right? You could have the machine so they don't have to transport it back and forth. And then you have a practitioner come on a regular basis and they perform these types of procedures. And it doesn't always have to be a physician. Sometimes it's a nurse completing something, or a nurse practitioner, or a PA, or something like that. So, I just think that it becomes a little more accessible for certain individuals.
No kidding. Holy moly. What I want to ask you, you've obviously done a lot of surgeries. Your specialty is aesthetics, facial aesthetics.
Correct.
What do you think of Kris Jenner's new face? Because she has not been shy about that she had work done. What do you think?
Yeah, look, I think Steve Levine did a great job. I think the whole idea was, for decades, we were performing face and neck lifts in the wrong fashion, but now we know how we age. So imagine we're tethered in the center, and the face kind of ages around it. And so that's why we get, the brow drops, we get tear troughs, laugh lines, and jowls, because everything is held in the center and it ages around. So now, instead of pulling back and the windblown appearance, or lifting straight up, because that's not how we age, I think now what we're doing is we're essentially rotating everything back into position, and it just makes you look more youthful and more natural. So, he completed a procedure that, we've been doing for the past, 8 years, but he did it very well. And Kris's previous facelift, I think, had some of the stigma, not necessarily, but we'll just say it was a much more natural sort of lift, because, he was reversing the aging process.
Now, I know that you've worked on a lot of celebrities over the years. Obviously, a lot of them you can't name, but do you feel an extra level of pressure when you are working on someone who is high profile, that you know is going to be photographed? And when they're photographed in high def. Everyone is critiquing their appearance. Is there an extra level of like, man, I cannot screw this one up?
Always, always. Look, I would love I'm just being transparent. And I would love to be able to tell you that, because you go into an operation trying to treat every single person the same, you of course want to give everyone the same, amazing result. And it just doesn't always happen. And for a multitude of reasons, right? And so I think that it does add a level of complexity, because there is zero margin for error.
Mm-hmm.
I think years ago, if you got a good result, people were happy. Now, with the advent of social media, unless you get a perfect result, no one is happy. And so, it becomes extremely challenging when someone is in front of the camera all day long, because if there's a slight pucker or some unnatural crease or something like that, or, look, you're always going to be able to take a photo where something just doesn't look right.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to catch you with your neck down or wrinkle over here. And that is memorialized somewhere. And then they'll come into the office and say, oh my gosh, look at this thing. This is how I look in photos. No, that's how you look in one photo. And they just happen to get you at a wrong angle.
Oh, I just even think about like skin heals in weird ways for different people. So like
Right.
a scar could be almost invisible for one person and a giant keloid for another one. Like, how do you, I don't even know how you deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, look, I think there's a whole algorithm. We follow a reconstructive ladder in plastic surgery. And so, for people who do heal well, gosh, that's amazing. If they don't, then we kind of follow an algorithm to try to at least camouflage, if not eliminate those types of visible scars. I think now with the advent of regenerative medicine, we're slowly starting to see improvements in our results just based off of swelling, scarring, all kinds of things. And by regenerative medicine, I mean stem cell, exosome therapy, things like that.
I'm curious when there's someone in the public, big celebrity that is getting critiqued for the way they look, and everyone is accusing them of plastic surgery, and they're saying, no, 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 no. Because your eye is trained for it, are you always like, BS?
Yeah.
Like you can spot it?
Yes. I mean, the idea is we know what to look for. And so it just tends to be a little easier to pick out. I think where people go wrong and where the public is really difficult is if there is a particular injector that fills volume in the face. And look, this isn't one of those things where if little is good, a lot is better. And one thing that you have to think about when we're putting in these, we're essentially putting these synthetic gels into the face, is that even though they're based off of natural compounds that our body creates, sometimes when you do these things, it depends where you put it. So you can get filler migration, or what happens is they look great in repose when you're not making an expression, but the moment you smile, you see it bunch up and look unnatural. And I think, and the other thing is sometimes people overdo it with different types of surgical procedures. I mean, we talk about the Kenny Rogers effect, where he underwent a procedure that they kind of overdid it and took away some of his masculinity. And you can easily see that's the result of bad work, right? It's not necessarily bad work. It's that, sometimes you just go a little too far and you can't come back from it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel like we've seen that a lot, but we don't see it as much as we used to. And that is one thing. You don't see these big celebrities making, headlines because they look so weird. It just is not the case these days.
Right.
You've done a lot of the Bravo shows when you've done surgery on the shows, you've been spotlighted, we've seen you on the Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Do you feel a lot more pressure when you are trying to work, but there are cameras in the surgery room? Because anything could go wrong, but is there more pressure when a camera's in there?
Yeah, look, I think it's kind of like reminding myself of being in residency where someone's looking over your shoulder at all moments, and so the idea is for the where something becomes second nature, now you're thinking of the steps and ensuring that you're doing everything the correct way. I think it's just one of those reality checks where it's like, all right, you know what you're doing, but let's make sure. And so you go through the steps in your head just to make sure. I think that part's just human nature.
So how do celebrities, because you got A-listers who obviously want procedures, how do they get in and out of plastic surgery offices without being seen these days?
Yeah, look, a lot of our offices have, separate entrances. Most come in disguised where you can barely recognize some of them. And, I think really it's trying to schedule some of the A-listers when it's, off times. So whether it's a weekend or it's early or late or during a lunch where everybody else may be gone.
Hmm. Yeah, because I always wonder about that with, paparazzi out in front of buildings. Like, how do that seems like it's a little more difficult than it used to be, because now everyone could be a paparazzi. Even someone else in the waiting room could be a
Right.
paparazzi just because
Yeah,
they got a phone in their hand.
we've had crazy stories of having to drive patients out of the driveway down around the corner so their car can pick them up. All kinds of different things, just because we're trying to avoid that. I mean, there used to be paparazzi up and down our street all day long, and I think Beverly Hills stopped that.
Yeah. So Obviously Adam and I, we talk about a lot about guys' appearances because we're dudes, and we look
Mhm.
at someone like Brad Pitt and just think,
Right.
how does someone like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise look so young? Do you think that they've had skin tighteners, or do you think that they're potentially going under the knife?
Yeah, I think I think Brad's gone under the knife. I think and he looks amazing. I just saw him in F1, and there's things that I look for. So to me, I think I'm fairly certain. And for Tom Cruise, I think a lot of it is skin tightening. I don't know that he's undergone formal, facial surgery yet, but
Mm-hmm.
again, even if he chose to do it, you see an icon that's been in the industry for decades, and truthfully, you don't want to see them age. You want to capture him in his first Mission Impossible, or things like that. That because as soon as someone ages on screen, it gives the audience the reality that they've aged as well. And I
Yeah.
think, keeping them in that space allows, it's that suspension of disbelief from Basic Instinct, where it's you upend your reality for that hour or two, to feel like you're right back in it.
Well, I was thinking about movies and how obviously red carpets happen right before it. And one of the stories that I've heard working in Hollywood is that doctors will get calls like, "Hey, I need you. I've got an emergency. I've got a red carpet tomorrow. I need you to come to my house. Do whatever." Have you received those type of calls from a celebrity before, like that emergency red carpet call?
All the time. It's one of those things where usually the week before any type of award or award season, we'll have a mad rush where, there are some things that we can do here in the office that just give that extra little push
Mm-hmm.
to give you a glow to, look more appealing on camera.
Like what? What can you do in a week's time that it's not going to mess up their face and like start peeling or something?
Right. Look, little bits of micro-Botox, just so creases in the forehead are less, or crow's feet. We can add little bits of volume here and there. And then we do something called a HydraFacial, which pumps hyaluronic acid into the skin. And so temporarily you have an amazing glow. It cleans the pores, but it also pumps in hyaluronic acid. So, it can reduce those fine lines and wrinkles.
So you not only have the practice here in Beverly Hills, but you also have a Cabo location.
Right.
Tell me about the Cabo location.
So, obviously, been a board certified plastic surgeon here, and I mean it for the past 16 years. And about 8 years ago, realized that regenerative medicine was going to move into aesthetics quickly. I think where all medicine is going, and the problem was, that the FDA would not allow us to do certain things here. It was still considered experimental. So I flew to China and Taiwan and Europe, and we kind of, talked to the guys in Panama and Costa Rica, and try to figure out what the best, most state of the art treatments were. And we realized that some of the things could be done in Mexico. And fast forward to 2 years ago, we opened a clinic called Proactive Longevity, where we can do not only just aesthetic treatments, but we can do regenerative medicine infusions with stem cells and exosomes. And we were seeing that we actually are reversing your biological age. So it makes it easier to make people look great if they feel better, and they're biologically reversing their age. So here in Los Angeles, we always say Proactive Longevity is managing the trajectory of aging in 3D. And we have something called detox, defend, and deliver vitality. Well, the detox is done here in Beverly Hills with a procedure called therapeutic plasma exchange. It's an oil change for the body, and it removes all of the heavy metals and BPAs from plastics and all the immune garbage that you've accumulated over the last several decades, and replaces it with a very clean, healthy albumin, which is a liquid protein. So it's amazing. It's a literal and figurative oil change, because you see what comes out and then what goes in, it's completely different. And then
Mm-hmm.
the defend is kind of boosting your own immune system. We take your blood, we extract what are called natural killer cells, which destroy cancer cells and viral infected cells. Then we amplify them and then inject them back into the body. And so it destroys all of these cells, aging cells that are taking up resources, not really accomplishing anything. And then the last is delivering vitality. That is where we actually infuse stem cells and exosomes, because they are giving the body all of the building blocks it needs to repair. And that includes skin, hair, nails, things like that. More than just repairing organs and ligaments and tendons and bone. It's repairing tissue in general. And so, I've got young kids. Being in my 50s, I said that I'm going to try to stay as young, as healthy as I can for them. And I have to be a man of my word. So that's what I'm teaching them.
By the way, if you guys aren't watching the video on YouTube, he definitely does not look 50. Whatever you're doing is working, sir. It is quite amazing. How often are you down in Cabo then, are doing these procedures?
I'm probably there. I mean, I'm down there once every 2 months, if not once a month. I do have 2 other physician partners, and we have 2 physicians on the ground in Cabo. And so collectively, I mean, we've been treating NFL athletes. We have NBA teams. We have Major League Baseball. All these guys that want to extend their careers. And then we look at some of the retired athletes. And it's not just for athletes. I mean, it's at Tiger Woods golf resort named Diamante. And, a lot of golfers go down and their shoulders hurt, their backs and things like that. And they need a quick tune-up. And that's exactly what we do.
But so you do a quick tune-up. How much does a quick tune-up cost you?
Look, sometimes, to isolate the best cells, it's a little more expensive. I always say, I liken it to the fact when the very first plasma screen came out, someone paid $25,000 for it. Now you can get a TV for $250. It's the same sort of science. So let's say you went down and you had infusions of stem cells and exosomes, and it cost you $15,000 to $30,000, depending on how much and what types of cells. But if that $15,000 or $30,000 can keep you off of medicines and active, and to me, I think it's worth it. Now, eventually, what'll happen is it'll become easier to extract cells, create them, because the cells we use are, some of them are called Muse stem cells. They're multilineage differentiating stress enduring stem cells. It's harder to isolate those, but they also happen to be much more potent than a traditional stem cell. So, can you go to a clinic and get, a $2,000 stem cell infusion? Yeah, you can. You have no idea where those stem cells came from. But, the goal is, if you're going to do this stuff, you should probably do it correctly.
I feel you on that. Have you ever had to talk a famous person out of doing a procedure? You're like, no, please just leave my office. You don't need that.
Right. That is 100%. There's always the individual. Look, we have supermodels that come in and say that, everyone's got something that bothers them. Now, it's very easy. I would say it's always very easy to ruin perfect. And so there, and someone will do it. That's the funny part. But I think, as I am going along in my career, in the beginning, when not to operate. I should say, when to operate in the beginning, like when to operate, when to perform a procedure. You're never as smart as you're going to be at that moment. But with experience, it becomes the opposite. You know when not to. And that's when someone comes in and you can't see what they see, then either you're not the appropriate practitioner for them, or they truly have some type of body dysmorphic disorder. And the goal would be to turn them away. Unfortunately, there's always going to be someone down the street that says, I can do it. And that's when they wind up in the nose.
Who do you think has the best nose job in Hollywood? Like I look at Ashley Simpson and I think, Damn, that was a great nose job. Jennifer Aniston, great nose job. Who do you think has the best nose job in Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Ashley Simpson. I think the difference is there are many celebs that undergo minor tweaks and things like that. Like if you look at
Mhm.
Halle Berry over the years, you look at Jennifer Aniston over the years, you look at Jennifer Lopez over the years. You see these subtle changes, and I think that's really good plastic surgery, right?
Mhm.
But with Ashley Simpson, it was great because it was such a dramatic change where you really visualize that. And so, I think I have to say there are two different types that I like. When you look at Halle Berry and that subtle transformation where it looks absolutely gorgeous, to me, that's amazing. But then when you
Mhm.
do look at Ashley Simpson, I think, wow, what a transformation. And this is a lot of times, again, because it's my specialty, right? Rhinoplasty and face and neck lifting. And when I see this 17-year-old recluse who has no friends and things like that, and all of a sudden walks through the office and the whole staff sees that swagger, it's just it's a different ballgame. It can change lives like that.
Now, is there any celeb though that people are like, that's the nose I want? Like, do they come in? Who's got the most desirable nose in Hollywood?
Right. Well, I get a lot of Monica Bellucci. I get a lot of people love
That's
Kim
so
Kardashian.
random. Like, what a random name,
Right.
Monica Bellucci.
Right. It's again, I think what happens is they'll see someone in a 007 movie and say, "Wait, she's gorgeous. Who is it?" And I love her nose, or something about her face, or
Hmm.
and so. But Kim still she's got amazing features. She is a beautiful female and a lovely person. So I think those things all kind of make people
Which
gravitate.
body part of Kim gets requested the most for people to look like?
I think nose and eyes.
Hmm.
And then there was a trend for a while where, and this is more my partner who does more breast and body, but I think, where people were doing Brazilian butt lifts and adding volume and things like that, there was that trend. I think that's reversing now.
Okay. All right. What's the craziest request you've had from a celebrity?
A lot of time, it's so funny. We had a celeb that said, I can get all the full equipment in my home if you're willing to do it here. And, doing a true operation, we'd say,
Oh, like converting their entire house
oh,
into a OR.
yeah, they can have a suite. They don't want to leave because they're big time celeb and they, don't want anyone to see it. That's probably the craziest thing I've ever heard.
But is that now because they want to have multiple surgeries, or literally for one surgery, they are willing to convert a room in their house?
Yeah, I think for multiple. This is,
Holy moly. How much do you think
yeah,
that would cost to convert a house into an operating room?
yeah, I
Million
would say,
bucks?
yeah, I would say, to get you started, at least a 500,000. But yeah, I'd say closer to $1,000,000.
And is that legal? Can you do that?
No, no, it certainly wouldn't be accredited. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So we have a fully accredited surgery center. So I mean, I'm not risking a license or anything of the sort.
What is I always think about this. I'm like, you look at cars and you can go, that's the most expensive car, that's the most expensive house. What's the most expensive procedure that someone can do?
Yeah, I think right now face and neck lifting is definitely the most expensive. Although, if you look at, from my business partner, he does all of the breast and body. When you do a full mommy makeover, that's 360 lipo with breast lift and augmentation and tummy tuck and things like that. That can add up too. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of combining procedures.
Jeez, that's so crazy.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I just, it's crazy to think about the money that can flow around if you have it, right?
right,
Like
right.
and you
The
look at
things that
Hollywood.
cannot be and things that can be done.
Yeah, it really amazing. Is there anything that you think is like a myth when it comes to plastic surgery that you're like, man, I feel like I'm constantly having to debunk this or tell people that is not true because I see it on television? Is there anything that you feel like should be debunked about plastic surgery?
Yeah, I think that you can debunk that good plastic surgery. You can't tell. It's
Yeah.
interesting because everybody comes in with this preconceived notion of what plastic surgery looks like. And it's usually a reference to all of the negative factors that are seen.
Yep.
But you miss all of the really good plastic surgery because it looks natural. And so I think if you go to the right practitioner, plastic surgery is a positive thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that if it's done right, you'll never know, and that's the best surgery someone could have. And I'm telling you, there's people walking around all through Hollywood that you never know.
Right.
What do you think is for dudes? What do you think is the hottest trend for guys right now to have done?
Yeah, look, I think that it's becoming more and more acceptable for males to undergo enhancement. Right? It used to be that men age like fine wines, and then we're looking at our counterparts saying, "Wait, why do they get to look younger while we, slowly maintain our age?"
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to be the most common thing. I mean, one is rhinoplasty. I mean, that just is one of the most common procedures in male outside of liposuction. So let's say, lipo is the most common procedure just because everybody wants to lose a little fat and they love shaping. But when it comes to actual, to surgical crafting, I think that rhinoplasty is number one. And then as men age, they're slowly coming in saying, look, can you do anything about this turkey neck? Or can you do anything about these heavy brows or eyelids? And if done correctly, just looks like a quick refresh.
So I did Botox once. I got talked into it, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna do it because I get all wrinkly." I hated it. Like I felt like I looked like a different person.
Right.
What do you think? What do you think I did wrong, or what do you think the person did wrong? Because I felt like it changed the look of my face. Like my brows looked different.
Right.
I was so weirded out. I'm like, I can't do this again.
Yeah, I think the practitioner has to really look at the anatomy of the individual, right? Because I think Botox is one of the best drugs that we have, but it has to be placed correctly in the individual. So what I would say is you probably got too much in an area that you shouldn't have had it. And that's when people say, all right, my smile looks strange, or my eyes look different, or something like that. That means that you got a little too much in an area that you didn't need it. When you add smaller little amounts to other areas, you should still be able to move. I have it in now. I can still bend, and there is a line that forms in my forehead, but it's just gone when you're done making the expression. That's what Botox is for. It's not to freeze you. And so I think you should give it another go. Let me at it, and we'll do it the right way.
I'll see you this afternoon. I got some time. I'm going to come up. I'm going to be like, come on, doctor, do it right. So I can, we could do a before and after.
Exactly. Pressure's on.
Oh, serious. So tell me, how did you start up your own practice, by the way? Like I got to imagine starting up a practice, being a partner at the Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Group. That is, I mean, you're young to be having a practice like this in one of the most in-demand cities of the world. How did you do that? How did you pull that off?
You know what? I think some of it's being in the right place at the right time. Some of it is, keeping your head down and doing good work. And I think that, I'm from the Midwest. My business partner and I were in residency in New York together. I was going to go back to the Midwest, and he said, you know what? You really should come out to Los Angeles with me. So we ended up forming a practice together, Dr. Payman Danielpour and I. And we originally started out of his uncle's office, who was a cosmetic dermatologist. Then we quickly realized that there was some crossover. And so he said, all right, time for you guys to move on. and we had our own office that we shared office space with an internist to the stars. And his name was Saram Khalsa. Every celebrity known to man would go see him.
Sorry, what does internist mean? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means.
Internal medicine. And so he did integrated medicine. And so he would take some Eastern and Western medicine and apply it together, and celebs loved it. But we had more visibility. We eventually opened our own office, and some of those patients trickled down to us. And then it just, went from there. I think that,
is it all just word of mouth when it comes to plastic surgery?
A lot of it. I mean, look, we don't really advertise. I would say 95% of our referrals are really from previous patients and from other physicians. So we're pretty thankful for that.
Now, is this something that you, like when you were young, you said, I want to get in plastic surgery, or you were, hey, I want to be a doctor, and then it kind of transferred into being a plastic surgeon?
You know what? I was going to be a trauma surgeon, because in medical school, it's where you get to save lives, and, you get to do all these crazy things. And halfway through residency, I think I realized that there was a turning point where I saw the potential. There was a plastic surgeon who did all the reconstruction for trauma, and he always told jokes and was well dressed, and the nurses loved him. He just had that great personality, and I was drawn to it. And he took me under his wing, and that was it. And so, and I always had a creative side. My father's hobby was painting, and I always loved to draw and paint and create things. And so it just kind of seemed like, it was meant for me.
Yeah. Is there, do you look at certain patients and go, that's my pride and joy? That person turned out like even better than I could have ever imagined.
Yes. And that's such a rewarding feeling. I mean, it is, I was talking about it earlier. I can think of a few individuals that stand out where before, they were social recluses. They just, lacked confidence. And now they walk through the office, and they wink at other staff, and they have just a different swagger. To me, you've changed their life, and they're very thankful for it. So that's, that to me is very rewarding.
And then being on TV, doing surgeries on TV, being a celebrity doctor, do you feel like it helps or hurts once people start seeing you on television?
You know what? I don't know that it does either. I mean, I suppose it depends how you represent yourself. I think that if you show yourself as a compassionate and well-educated individual that has a discerning eye and knows when to say no, I think you'll end up looking positive. I think for individuals that are very arrogant and, again, I've never on TV said I'm the best and this is everybody else should follow me. I think it's more of, I keep my head down and try doing the best I possibly can, realizing that there's potential for complication and preparing the patients for it.
Now, do you hang out with someone like Terry Dubrow, who's obviously well-known surgeon in Beverly Hills, on Bravo, which you've been on lots of times? Do you know him personally?
I don't know Terry. Listen, I know Andrew Ordon. We did the doctors together multiple times, and he's always been a gentleman to me. And, I do know some of the guys like Paul Nassif, and but it's, not necessarily. We're all in the same circle. It's a small knit community.
So is it competitive then?
I don't know that it's competitive. It's so funny. There's so many plastic surgeons here in Los Angeles. You would think that we would all be fighting for the same patient, but there are also so many people here, and each one of us has our own aesthetic. And so people who shop from doctor to doctor to doctor, they look at your results and say, well, I gravitate toward this because it looks good to me. Right? I always say the same thing. I'll do a consultation and I'll say, all right, let's say we do a rhinoplasty, and I'll create a simulation for them. I'm going to create something that I think looks good on your face. If you don't like it, run, because that's what looks good to me. And so it kind of breaks the ice a little bit and, makes it fun.
Now, I saw recently you got named one of the top cosmetic doctors by The Hollywood Reporter. Was that a shock? Was that something you were looking for? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, I think I obviously I didn't expect that. In all reality, I didn't know Hollywood Reporter was talking about top doctors. And stuff like that. And so it just happened. And of course, look, it feels good knowing that sometimes you're recognized for some of the things that you truly enjoy, right? But again, it doesn't mean that I'm going to change my practice or do anything different. I'm still going to try to stay as cutting edge as I can and deliver the best result.
And tell me about your podcast, because I know you've got a podcast called Forever Young.
Correct.
How did you get into podcasting? What kind of topics are you talking about on there? Because obviously, people listen to podcasts that are listening to us right now might go check yours out. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, look, we started it. There's probably, I don't know, 150 episodes. We started off talking about our journey. We talked about different plastic surgical procedures and what our take was on it. And then we also have multiple guests, and we talk about staying forever young. We talk about youthful journeys, how people, there are some celebs on there. How do they stay young? And what is their regimen? We have athletes, we have all kinds of different things, and saying, it's more than just aesthetics to staying young. So whether it's mindfulness or spirituality or just everyday, your activities of daily living, showing, what can and can't be done to help live not just longer, but better.
Mm-hmm. All right. I love it.
So
Well,
it's kind of fun. I mean, it's like, look, Payman and I banter back and forth, and we usually have a guest. I mean, we've talked about everything from new cancer therapies to genetic, things that you can do to just straight up which breast dog is better. Why did we choose a certain implant, or how a rhinoplasty is different from a septoplasty, and just different kinds of things like that, just for education.
I love it. What kind of questions do you get from the fans out there when they're listening? Are they just wanting to know how to get an appointment with you more than anything?
You know what? A lot of it is new trends and questions on, is this true? Or, look, it's really hard to differentiate, what's real and what's not on social media because of filters and AI and all kinds of different things. And so it's just one of those things where people will write in and say, all right, shoot me straight. Is this true or is this not? And we'll just give our take on it.
What's the big question that keeps coming up because of TikTok?
You know what? It's interesting. One of the newer trends is really how young is too young. And because when you look at TikTok, the audience is definitely on the younger end. And there are posts of teenagers that are doing these, surgical things that I can't imagine any ethical surgeon in this country would be doing. And so a lot of them will write in saying, look, is this true? How is this being done? What's too young? And then we'll kind of weed our way through that and give our take.
Awesome. I love it. Well, it sounds very formative. I'm going to have to go take a look at it, take a listen, check it out. Where can people find you on social media?
On social media, you can either look up our Instagram, which is Plastics Docs with an X, PLASTIXDOCS. You can go to Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Group.com, and that really has all of our stuff. And, or for our podcast, Forever Young. So we'll be here waiting for your questions.
I love it. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us today. I love getting a look behind the curtain to see what people are doing, how they're doing it, how much it costs. I find that all so fascinating. So thank you for taking time. And I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate it.
Dax, thank you so much. Good to see you. And, look forward to talking soon.
All right. Well, that was fun. I don't know. I love finding out this kind of information. I don't know. When it comes to the medical field, I feel like I am very out of my element. I don't know enough. And I think that I'm always curious. Adam, you guys hear us. Adam and I are always curious about what people are doing, how they're staying young. So to hear that Brad Pitt most likely had work, and that Tom, maybe not, but maybe he's doing this skin tightening stuff. I want to hear that, because you look at them and you go, how is it possible that these guys or women or whoever in Hollywood continue to stay looking so young? And it really comes down to money, is what it, what it really is. If you can pay for these ridiculous machines at your home, or you can pay to have your platelets removed from your body, then put right back into your body, like, it really, there is truth behind money can buy you looks. Really what it comes down to. Anyway, again, thank you, Dr. John Layke. You can check him out, Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Group.com, or like he said, his Forever Young podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Go on our private Facebook group, Off the Record. Make sure you let Adam know that we missed him greatly, that he missed a fun episode. He'll be back in the next couple days. Have no fear. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok. TikTok's going off, by the way, guys. Holy moly. Every time I look, it's getting crazier and crazy. We got the episodes up on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on, we don't do much Twitter anymore. You can find us on Facebook, and you can follow me at Dax Holt. You can follow Adam at Adam Glyn. Until next time, later.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.